founder and director of a nonprofit youth basketball program in New York City. We've been operating for about 10 years. We serve about 2,500 kids a year. Everything we do is free, and we have a strong focus on skill development and leadership training. We do some outside games, but mostly we play in-house tournaments with more of a leaning towards instruction versus competitive play. And we're used to having anywhere between 100 and 200 kids in our gym. Saturday and Sunday, we have 5 gyms scattered around downtown Manhattan, and on a good day, we're serving between 500 and 1,000 kids coming from all over New York City. We're really proud of our diversity. New York City has 178 zip codes, and we have players coming from over 150 of them every weekend or two. So really proud of kind of what we did over the last 10 years. And then on March 14th, we were told our gyms are closed and we're not allowed to play anymore. So one thing I'm proud of is it took us 12 days. I wish it was a little quicker, quite honestly. I wish I didn't delay at all. And that's going to be a lot of my message to you guys today is if you're not doing stuff virtually, just get on it. You know, the best time to plant the tree was 3 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you're not doing anything and you feel a little stuck, hopefully I can kind of encourage you to just get your oars in the water, just get your legs churning and get moving and start something. We operate 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. On the weekends, we start at 10 a.m. We offer classes or workouts for group 4 to 8-year-olds only. We do an advanced ball handling. We do a quiet workout, which is non-dribbling drills, a lot of core work, strength training, agility work for kids who live in apartments and can't make noise. We do a girls-only workout. We do shooting clinics. We do yoga. And then we do kind of our prime time, 5:30 to 7 o'clock. Little bit of everything. That's where we get our biggest crowd. One thing that I think is important to understand is everyone's schedule is completely different now. We used to all have the same schedule. You wake up, you go to school, you have your after school, you go home, you do your homework, you go to bed. Weekends are dedicated to youth sports. Now everyone's schedule is different. There's online learning. Kids have these pockets in the middle of the day. And what we've learned is those pockets are now kind of where people are doing a lot of their basketball with us or youth sports. I think there's a lot of misconception. We're also used to youth sports revolving around the weekend, and that seems to have changed. We get 150 to 200 daily participants, but less on the weekend. So the reason I bring that up is I encourage you, just forget everything you know about youth sports. Some of you have been doing it for a long time, and you have this kind of don't hold on tight to the things you think you know. Weekends are no longer the center of youth sports necessarily. Weekends are becoming a time that everyone in the family has the same schedule, and I've had people tell me they're just going for drives to get out, and they're not centering their weekend on youth sports the way they used to. However, providing something during the day in between classes can be huge for people. Our workouts are led both by professionals and our young leaders. Majority of workouts are thinking about the things that we can do well. We obviously can't shoot, we can't compete, but we can work on our ball handling, our strength training, our footwork. And I think a lot about where my kids are working out. We're a New York City program, so most of what we do is designed for a very small space, maybe the size of a yoga mat or two. And then I see kids that got out of the city, and we're actually starting to get kids joining us from all over the city, all over the country. And you see people in driveways. But it's important to us as a New York City program that we provide everything for a kid working out in his apartment or her apartment with very little space. For some of you working in places where people have homes and backyards and driveways, that's going to determine what you're able to do. Traditional motivation is something I think we'll talk more about in the Q&A, but I think it's one of the things that I thought a lot about over the last couple months is how do we motivate kids to keep coming back? In a traditional youth sports environment, I think we're all motivated by either greed or fear. Greed, I want to make my team. I want to win the championship. I want to be a starter. I want to lead the team in scoring. I want to go on to play college sports. I want to be recruited. I want a scholarship. Or fear, I don't want to get cut. I don't want to sit the bench. I don't want to lose. So traditionally, those are strong motivators for kids to not take days off and really commit themselves to their sport and their team. And that no longer exists because we don't have competition right now. So what is going to be motivating to get people to show up? It's so easy to not show up to a virtual workout. And it's so So how do we get them to want to show up? And I think a lot about the concept of creating a community and giving them a shared purpose, a shared responsibility, becoming owners of their program. And that's something I think a lot about anyways. I think it's very important for kids to feel like they have a stake in the program, that they're not just participants, but they actually have some ownership in the program. But now more than ever, kids are not going to show up to win. They're going to show up to be part of something bigger than themselves. The last thing I have on this slide is just keeping in track. What is your North Star goal? What is it what's going to drive you through today until the end of quarantine or social distancing, the new world we're living in, however long it lasts? What is your North Star? What's going to keep you on track? And then what's your lighthouse vision, meaning what's a goal, a short-term goal that you can really focus on in the next 3 to 8 weeks? Moving on. So for me, the North Star goal for me has been maintain our pre-COVID standards and popularity. We have a tremendous amount of kids that rely on us, and I want to see those numbers say a lot. I want to see the numbers stay high. I want to see the commitment level stay high. And my lighthouse goal is restructuring our young leaders program. I'll talk a little more about that later in the presentation. But those are the two things I'm focused on. One more long-term, one more short-term. And then I think about the way I define success pre-COVID. What did success look like for Steady Buckets before COVID-19? And I always talked about 5 things. 1, get a little bit better. As coaches, if we can help our athletes get a little bit better on a regular basis, that's obviously one of the most important things we do. On Thursdays, we do a test day. So Thursdays, we develop this test where they count their reps and their number of reps translate into a score from 1 to 100. And every Thursday, the idea is try to beat your score. So that's an example of we're trying to find new ways to be competitive and to challenge and to measure success, measure improvement. Number 2 is getting kids to leave their mental and physical comfort zones. Number 3 is outwork them, we call it, but the idea being feel so proud of yourself at the end of the workout, that feeling of accomplishment when you take a deep breath and you know you did something that you're proud of. Those 3 I put in green because I find that we can do these just as well, in some ways better than ever, in a virtual setting. Have fun becomes more challenging. Our kids they're having fun, no doubt, but it's a much bigger challenge. You're not hanging out with your buddies. You're not high-fiving. You're not hugging. You're not smiling. You're not competing. You're not winning. You're not making shots. So yellow becomes a bigger challenge that we have to focus more and more purposefully address how we're going to bring fun into the workouts. Number 5 and 6 I have in red because making new friends and strengthening friendships and providing opportunities for leadership are very difficult. And it doesn't mean it's impossible. I just have that green, yellow, red in terms of green. I'm fully confident in myself and my other coaches. I'm confident in all of you that you can do a tremendous job teaching your sport virtually. But fun gets a little harder. Friendship and leadership become even more difficult. And that's where I'm really spending a lot of my mental energy. And that's what the rest of the presentation is about. So next slide is just kind of stop. And I just encourage everyone to close your eyes for a second and imagine that this COVID-19 social distancing, you can't play your sport. You can't coach your kids for the next 3 to 5 months. And how does that affect your way of thinking? And then what if it's 3 to 5 years? And I know that's kind of a doomsday scenario. And it's something that when I think about it, it gives me chills. It makes me sick to my stomach. It also gets me more motivated than ever. Anyways, I just wanted to kind of share. Personally, I find myself going on these ups and downs. My highs and lows are out of whack more than ever. There's days that I just want to scream. I'm so sick of the present situation we're living in. That being said, when I find myself the most motivated is when I think about the doomsday scenario. When I find myself getting lazy and not working hard to be the best coach and run the best program I can be, I try to think of what if we're virtually coaching for years and get off your butt and start improving the thing, because this isn't going to be over in a month and I can just kind of sit out the next month and then go back to the way things were in September. We all hope that's the case, but what really motivates me is this long-term nightmare of this not going away anytime soon. So what do we know? We know youth athletics are not playing today, and they're not going to play. We don't know when we will play. We know that sports-based youth development organizations are at the risk of closing especially if they don't innovate. Right? Players and coaches are going to have to adapt and reinvent themselves in order to succeed. Amid the uncertainty, all right, players and programs are going to have an opportunity not just to stay alive, but to actually become stronger. All right. I also feel strongly that kids need the benefits of our program and your program more than ever. I feel that what's most important about youth sports is the relationships we build with kids is now more important than ever and also more difficult than ever. And the other thing that I always tell myself when I think about what's next, how to improve, is better than nothing just isn't good enough. All right, I want to warn all you guys. I think it's very natural to say, all right, COVID-19, let's just put something out there. Anything's better than nothing. And anything better than nothing is never good enough, right? If it's not, if what you're doing isn't quality, people are going to leave your program and find something else of quality somewhere else. Or the other way to think about it is it's just not good enough. We care about our families, our kids that we coach, and to really snap out of this kind of depressed state that we're all going in and out of, and realize that it's not good enough to just kind of survive the next however long this takes, but to actually thrive and get stronger. So something that I find very helpful is something called the Stockdale paradox. And I address everyone before you even think about how you can help your kids, how you can run your program better. The first thing you have to do is address your own state of mind. As leaders, if we're not feeling strong and motivated and happy and energized, enthusiastic, then there's just no way you can run a good program. So the first thing I think it's really important to address your own state of mind. All right, the Stockdale paradox is essentially a balance between reality and faith. All right, James Stockdale was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He was held for 7 years, tortured, and ended up surviving and actually helping a lot of people survive. And what he describes is he says the pessimists died first. The first people to die were the pessimists, the people that believed that they were never going to get out. They died very quickly. But shortly after the pessimist, the optimist died. The person who said, you know what, come Christmas, we're going to be home. You know what, come New Year's, we'll be home. Easter, we'll be home. Christmas comes around again, and those people, those optimists, just couldn't survive. And the people that survived, he coached people into balancing their faith and the reality. And he said the people that survived were the people that had the never dying faith that this will come to an end, but also confront the brutally honest facts of their current reality. All right, and more than that, I love what he says. He says, I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn this experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect, I would not trade. So there's a guy who was tortured for 7 years, right, held in a prisoner of war camp, and he looked back on it saying, you know what, I wouldn't trade it for anything. This moment defines who I am. And I think this is a big part of my presentation to you guys is I feel strongly, and I say it to my players almost every night, some of you will look back at COVID-19 as the reason you were successful in sports. I got a scholarship, and you know what, if it wasn't for COVID-19, I don't think I would be where I'm at. And to flip that script and turn something that's the quite possibly the most traumatic thing that we've all lived through collectively into, well, can we think of it as a positive? How can we make this something that we look back on as players, coaches, and organizations and say, we are stronger now thanks to COVID-19. And when it's all over, we actually look back at it and maybe even say this is the best thing that ever happened to us. All right, so I'm going to digress a little bit. And so we agree on the importance of virtual coaching and that we want to do something special. And then we get to, well, what's that going to be? My first reaction was I'm going to make pre-recorded videos and pump those out. I want to make 10 of them over the weekend so I can have one video coming out every day. And then it occurred to me that if I'm doing pre-recorded videos, my competition becomes Olympic gold medalists, NBA champions, MVPs, the master class instructor. Because if you're doing pre-recorded, Simone Biles, Steph Curry, Serena Williams, these are your competitors. And you're not going to win because they have a bigger budget. They have professional lighting, sound, angles, editing, etc. They have the best instructors in the world, the best players giving their expertise. They have a ability to stop and start anytime. But what they don't have is they don't have the ability to personalize encouragement, give detailed instructions, make corrections. They're not taught by someone who cares about you, and they don't build a community where kids can come together and develop friendship. All right, so next slide is really getting back to this idea of just do it. Just jump in. We're still, and I hope I'm wrong, but we're still early in this mess that we're in. And if I'm wrong, life will go back to normal soon enough, and great. But if we're not, then we're still in an early stage, and in early stages, experiment, be wrong. I encourage you all to develop new styles of coaching, and don't think that the things that you used to do is all you can do. Just be creative. Try something different every day. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, move on. It's one of my favorite quotes that I repeat all the time to the kids is, I never lose. I either win or I learn, Nelson Mandela. And just encouraging you all to take that attitude that while we do want to do something special, in the next couple of weeks, you have an opportunity to just try things. All right. Leave your comfort zones. And the other thing we'll talk about later is building a ramp for success, and just coming to grips with my first couple virtual workouts are not going to be very good. I think some people are not doing the virtual stuff because they're afraid it's not going to be good. And if you're afraid it's not going to be good, you put it off. Just get the bad stuff out of the way. You know, give yourself 5 or 6 or 10 workouts online virtually that you say, you know what, I'm going to try a lot, and it might not be great, but I am going to get better. A great way to do that is, I just left this slide blank, but the concept is working, not working. And it's something I do with my team once a week. On Mondays, we do a working, not working. And we just talk about the things that have been working well and the things that haven't been working well. And we just kind of get it out. We write down as much as possible, and hopefully that leads us to improvement. Back to the concept of anti-fragility. Can you become stronger because of COVID? All right, Nassim Taleb wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. The idea being fragile things break under chaos. Robust things are resilient. They stay the same. But anti-fragile means when something terrible happens, when there's chaos, when there's confusion, some things get stronger. And that's really the mindset that I'm taking. It's what I'm preaching to my players, and it's what I hope for my organization, is that as players, coaches, and an organization as a whole, we can come out of this stronger than ever. So how are we going to do that? Number one, address the game. Address the aspects of the game that you often ignore. All right, we spend a lot of time competing and playing and running set plays, and maybe not as much time doing strength training or working on flexibility, working on fundamental technique, meditation, diet. Anything that usually gets pushed off to the back is now an opportunity to bring it to the forefront of your training and really say, you know what, for the next month or two, we're really going to make strength training a positive. Right. I have players, I think we all have players that are either underweight or overweight for their respective sport. And to say, this is a time where I'm really going to weigh myself every day and make my diet a priority and make myself stronger. There's other players for me. I'm a basketball coach. I have players who are forwards their whole life. And I say, well, this is an opportunity to become a point guard. All right. I was talking to a kid who played at St. John's, a kid named Bashir Ahmed. He's playing overseas right now. I said, Bosh, this is your opportunity to become a point guard. This might be your ticket to the NBA. You've been playing the 2 and the 3 your whole life, and that got you to an overseas job. But if you can turn yourself into a 6'5" point guard, you might be able to make your dream come true. So use this as a unique opportunity to do things that you normally wouldn't be doing. And I love, back to the Stockdale paradox, is think about this as a life-changing event. And life-changing event is either really bad or really good. And we do all have an opportunity to make this a life-changing event for the better. All right. Another thing is expand your reach. We are all national programs right now. Yeah, well, we're all national organizations. It's really been cool. In fact, I've had kids come in from India, all over the UK, pretty much every state. I have people popping up because word travels, word gets out. And you end up, one thing that I do, you'll notice on my screen, it says Macky Bergman, New York City. All right. And what we do is we encourage everybody to put their place into their name. And you start seeing that kids are coming from all over the country to be a part of your organization. And again, I constantly talk about that as terrible as this all is. I'm really grateful that I've met this kid, Tyler, from North Carolina, and Michael and Jonathan from Texas, and Matthew from Texas, and Ethan from Hawaii. And I have these kids who have become regulars in my program from all over the country. So it's another example of, who knows, when this is all over, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to run Zoom workouts. Not exactly sure what the schedule will be, but maybe a couple times a week, because people are going to say, hey, just because COVID is over and life is back to normal, we're not from New York City. We're really missing Steady Buckets. Can you keep doing what you've been doing? So I'm looking at that as an opportunity to grow into a national program. Another great thing is you can record your practices. How many of us record ourselves coaching and then watch our practices to think about how we can become better coaches? Probably few to none. But now you press one button and you can videotape your whole practice and you can rewatch it, especially as you're getting good at it. It's something I was doing a lot of early on. I'm doing it a little less because I've kind of hit my stride. All right. But we can now videotape ourselves and rewatch ourselves and think about how we can become better coaches. I'm also spending more time looking at my shortcomings. I'm a basketball coach. All right. And I'm spending more time studying strength training. All right. Well, there's such a wealth of knowledge on the internet that I can address some of my weaknesses as a coach as well. And the last thing, which is really the most important part of coaching, in my opinion, is it's a unique opportunity to show your players how much you care about them. One thing that I've done is I printed out my roster of over almost 3,000 players who have signed up over the last 18 months, and I organized it by birthday. And every day I make 2 to 5 phone calls and wish people happy birthday. And the reaction is, how did you know it was my birthday? It's this shock that I thought of them to call them on their birthday, or that I would even know it was their birthday. But to make that extra effort to show people you care about them, it's worth more than it's ever been worth before. Kids need it more, and it's just so simple to think about who's in your organization, and it's a 1-minute phone call to say happy birthday, and it means the world to a kid that kind of not having the birthday they envisioned a couple months. Next one is another one I left blank. This is just a little worksheet that you can do very easily. Opportunities to get better as a player, a coach, or an organization. And like I said, build yourself that ramp. All right. Understand that your first 4 weeks are going to be the worst. They should be the worst. Because if they're not the worst, it's actually something bad is going to happen, is that you're going to plateau. And the virtual workouts will become boring. So in fact, you actually want to start a little slow. And you want your players to feel like this is getting better and better every week. I'm excited to see what coach is going to come up with next time. You want to make your players thirsty for more versus getting off to a good start and then midway through June have them feeling like it's becoming boring. All right, so back to relationships, and I understand the presentation's a little all over the place, but that's because I think a lot of this stuff has a lot in common with each other. But I love this Popovich quote: relationships with people are what it's all about. You have to make players realize you care about them, and they have to care about each other and be interested in each other. Then they start to feel a responsibility towards each other. Then they want to do for each other. All right. Like I said in the first slide, I talked about old motivations don't work. What works now for motivation is doing for each other, being a part of something bigger. All right. Feeling like a community. All right. And there's some real ways that you can do that. All right. Number one, amplify your warmth. All right. Acknowledge everyone by name, where they're from, but just be mushier than ever. Tell people how thankful you are to see them. Tell them how much you care about them. Thank them for coming to your workout and being a part of this during this challenging time. Ask them how they're doing. Make it more clear than ever how much you care about them, because we all need it more than ever. All right. Show gratitude. And it's something that I always say, people are going to thank you a lot because they need it more than ever, and they're super appreciative. And kids are thanking me, parents are thanking me, and I always have the same answer. I say it at least once, if not 3 times a night. All right. No, thank you, because I need you more than you need me. All right. Without me, my players can still play. They can still get their ball and go out on the sidewalk and do some ball handling drills. But without them, I can't coach. So I constantly tell them, I love coaching. I love coaching basketball. So I thank them for giving me an opportunity to coach them versus me being the one giving them a service. I kind of flip that, and I make sure that I make it very clear how thankful I am to them. All right. We do something called shout outs during water breaks. All right. You can, during water breaks, you wave your hand in front of the screen and you give a shout out. And we describe it as the new high five. You can't give high fives anymore. All right. But you can give shout outs. And shout outs are a way to show appreciation for each other. People are always shouting out the hardest workers because everyone notices who the hardest workers are. And then we also do, we do a workout from 5:37. We join in on my block. A lot of people are ringing bells. There's a church across the street. So they all do the 7 p.m. clap for heroes. And we join in on that. And we make sure that we cheer for each other, but also for everyone out there putting their own health at risk. Show vulnerability is very important right now. Be honest. I talk about how frustrated it is. Sometimes I say, guys, how are you doing? I just want to scream today. I'm sick of COVID. I hate it. I'm sick of it. But you know what? You guys are the best part of it. I get to see you every day. So it's being honest with your own emotions, and that's going to build the trust, and that trust, now they start wanting to help each other out and be nice to each other. We've done some things like a ritual. Every team that I know of puts their hand in. At Steady Buckets, we put our hand in. We say, SB on 3, hard work on 6. Now, instead of just putting your hand in and cheering, we say SB on 3. Everyone can't hear each other, so we tap our heart. And every night I remind them, and my coaches do too, that tapping your heart represents love, commitment to each other, family, teamwork, respect. And then we go 4, 5, 6, hard work. We flex our muscles. So it's just little things, but now everyone can feel like they're a part of it versus stick your hands in SB on 3, hard work on 6, and you only hear my voice. There's not a togetherness piece. Whereas if we all tap our heart together and we all flex our muscles together, we feel like we're connected and we're in it together. And then another piece is come early, stay late, never be in a rush to leave the Zoom. It feels like you don't want to be there. All right, guys, great job. See you later. I stick around for as long as the last person sticks around. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes chatting. All right, we tell jokes and riddles and trivia. We talk about The Last Dance. We talk about anything. Sometimes it's one kid who just doesn't want to get off and stick around because we're all home, and giving them that extra 5 minutes goes a long way. So how do you help those friendships grow? And that's some of what I've already talked about, but the importance of cameras on is so important. We tell people to put their name, their age, and their location into their screen name. Because if not, if I don't see them, I can't coach them. They're not really part of our community. That being said, some kids are so shy or their equipment doesn't work. We always allow people to have their video off, but we really encourage them to turn their video off. We let them know that they're missing out on the best part if their video is off. But if they want to quietly follow along, I'm not going to tell anyone they can't do it because everyone's got different reasons why they might want the camera off. All right, back to having fun, strategies to have fun, telling jokes, riddles, and trivia. We started about 2 weeks ago. There's days that people don't want to get off the workout. They just, there's a certain age group that it really plays into, that kind of 8 to 12-year-old. But they just love getting the, what we call it spotlight, and we call it you have the mic. So if you wave your hands in front of the screen during water breaks and after the workout, we say you have the mic. You can tell a joke, a riddle, trivia, and kids really love the jokes more than anything. You get all these corny jokes, but they're corny and they're hilarious. And more than anything, you're giving the mic to a young kid who otherwise feels like he's staring at a computer screen. When you give everyone the opportunity to contribute verbally, it builds into this sense that we all are together. Nobody's being muted for the whole time. Nobody's being told to shut up and listen and just follow along. Anyone who waves their hand in front of the screen will get an opportunity to contribute something to the conversation. Questions are always welcome. I mute everyone because otherwise you pick up on all the balls bouncing, but everyone has an opportunity to jump in on the conversation. One of the things I'm working on is small groups. I want to find ways to compete in small groups, and more than anything, put teams together where the end goal would actually be to get teams together and have them practicing without a coach, just kind of figuring out their own thing. I think the highest levels of success is when players are going to do their own thing. All right, I'm going to speed through this because I know we got off to a little slow start, and this is taking me longer than it did last time. But I talked about birthdays. One thing I encourage people to do is eat meals together. call your friend and just have lunch. And even if you don't say a lot, just find ways to be friends. We have one of our success stories that happened a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago. Kid named Macy, kid named Anthony. They both come early and they chat with each other. They do our shooting clinic, even though they can't shoot outside, and they play horse against each other on their little mini Nerf hoop. Maceo is somewhere out in the country. He's one of our kids from New York City, but he's out in the country and he's got this mansion of a place in his background. Swimming pool. 20 room, beautiful mansion. And Anthony's from the projects in Brooklyn. And they both gave each other a shout out recently about how their friendship developed and how much they appreciate each other, because they know that they both come early to chat with each other and they both stay late to chat with each other. And they're becoming this really close friendship during this really difficult time. And it was really touching. It was like almost Anthony went on this whole thing about how important Maceo's been to him. I wanted to cry. But it was just really moving. And to me, that's the highest level of success right now during these virtual workouts, is if you can build friendship. And purposely, I'm really trying to connect people. And I'm thinking more about, you know what, you two would have a lot in common. Why don't you have lunch tomorrow? Nothing to do with me. So one thing we did recently, we did a viewing party for The Last Dance, episodes 9 and 10 last Sunday. About 10 kids showed up. And I turned my thing on mute. I wanted to watch the show, and it wasn't about me being part of the conversation. It was just creating a room where they could talk to each other and watch it together and have conversations. And one by one, they were going to bed after the first episode, but some of them stayed the whole way through. And it was just a new way for them to have a friendship. In pre-COVID world, they would go to each other's house and watch it together. Well, there's no reason they can't get on a Zoom call and watch something together and feel like their friendship is still alive. Last thing I want to talk about is giving people choice, and then we'll get to the Q&A. And I'm happy to stick around a little longer. I don't know if we're on a tight 5 o'clock shutdown, but I know this went a little longer than expected. Giving your players choice is more important than ever. If it's a feeling like they're signing on, they're being muted, they're told what to do, they're going to get bored and they're going to reject it. So this idea of don't lead players to water in terms of encouraging them to attend, but make them thirsty, make them feel like they're missing out when they don't show up. All right. During traditional practices and games, players have hundreds of decisions to make. I know, especially in basketball, it's nonstop decision making, creativity. What basketball players love about basketball is the freedom of expression, the ability to make their own call. And during a Zoom workout, one thing that you want to be careful that you don't do is make it very structured of do what I say, do what I say, do what I say. We do freestyle workouts where they do whatever they want. Or any drill, I'll give them 3 or 4 levels of difficulty, and we'll do it for 2 or 3 minutes, but they can go in and out of the easier stuff, the harder stuff. Basically, I want to give them structure, but I also want to give them the ability to be unique, individual, and also not turn into robots where they're just doing the same thing as everyone else, but where they can actually watch each other and learn from each other and have some expression of individuality. We do outwork them sets is when we get a drink of water, I'll say, but if you want to be one of the hardest workers, do 20 push-ups before you get in the water. Again, this is giving them a choice. I can choose to be in this elite group of hardest workers, or I can get a drink of water. And I think just building in choice is very, very important. So anyway, Vince Lombardi, when he was a coach at Fordham, he coached basketball before he was with the Packers, and he used to have his players line up and say, basically, if you want to be coached today, step across the line. Now, I'm not doing that, but I'm just using that as an example. As before being Vince Lombardi, I can imagine it was his way or the highway. But before becoming a hard-nosed coach, he said, if you want to be part of this, step across the line. And he gave them choice before he told them what to do. So I think building choice into your workouts is more important than ever. And the last thing I have is a long quote from Notes from the Underground. It's just something that I've been thinking about for years now, that this is kind of when people aren't given choice, they make bad decisions. And I think we can share this presentation with anyone if you want to read deeper into it and think about how when you take away choice, your players tend to make the wrong decisions, right? I wrote at the bottom, when players have no choice, they often act against their own best interest. Give them choice and they tend to make the right decision. All right. So that's about all I got. The last slide I have is I'm still working on it, but the idea is to build this competition workout where kids could get into groups of 3 or 5 and compete and show up for essentially a game, a competition every Saturday or Sunday, and have a record and say, you know, a couple of weeks in, we're 4-2 and where there will be a championship. And what does that look like? Because we all know how motivated kids are to be part of a team, to have a goal of winning week by week, and have a kind of look forward to competition at the highest level in the playoffs, competing for a championship. So that's something I'm working on. My goal is to have it experiment over the next, same thing I said to you guys, my goal is to get it started in the next week or so, give myself until the end of June to make a lot of mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then we're planning on running a summer camp. By summer camp, I really want to have this all figured out, and then hopefully we don't need it in September, but if we do need it in September, we'll have a more structured league going into the fall. So that's all I got for you guys. I'm happy to get into Q&A.
That's awesome, Coach Macky. Go ahead and give a clap it up, snaps, thumbs up for Coach Macky. It's 1:46 on over here on the West Coast. So we do have a few minutes left still for Q&A. And so I really want to get into these questions. Again, submit your questions into the chat. Coaches, if anything came up for you while Coach Macky was speaking, but we do have some pre-submitted questions that I'd like to start with. And Coach Macky, I think the one I'd like to start with is, what was your motivation to coach? You know, what is your why? What was your why originally? If you can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, I've been coaching. I mean, I've really been coaching since high school. Was the rec center I grew up in. The guy who ran it had me coaching 7- and 8-year-olds when I was in high school. I was always gravitated towards helping people, and I love the game. You know, I think most coaches get to the point where they can't play anymore, whether it's because they had a professional career or they played at whatever level their limitations brought them to. And I love the game. So I was kind of, there is a long story to it, but the short story is just really looking to put a little money in my pocket and living with my parents and figuring out what's next in life and taking an assistant job at the local high school that I went to. And very quickly saying, this is for me. I love this. I love sharing knowledge. I played in college. I can help these kids get to the level. I can help them become better than I could become. And I think when I don't play anymore. Now I just coach. When I did in my 20s and early 30s, I played a lot. And I loved getting better through coaching. One of the things we do at Steady Buckets, we have this young leaders program where the kids coach each other. And we have a league where all the coaches and refs are kids. Because I know personally how much better I got. After you start coaching, you just understand the game on such a higher level. And that was a lot of fun. And now, you know, as an adult now, as a 37-year-old who's been doing it for a long time, it's really the biggest gift in my life is creating a community and helping people. When people write you a heartfelt email telling you how much your program means to their child's development, or when a kid who you've known their whole life goes on to college and tells them how instrumental your program in their life, it just doesn't get any better than that. One thing that I always tell people, other coaches, my young leaders, and something I always tell myself is be selfish and help other people. Nothing feels better than helping other people. So I consider it a selfishness of mine, is that I can't get enough of it. I'm doing it to help them, but I'm also doing it for myself because I just can't get enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So definitely your motivation, you know, your core value right there is about just helping others, and especially helping kids to get to, you know, to really just build their skills. That's awesome. What I have a question from a coach. What can we do? They say, what can we do to motivate girls to play sports and keep them interested in sports?
Yeah, a couple things. We have a girls only program. We take a lot of pride in having over 500 girls in our program. When we do girls only workouts on the weekend. Now we do a girls only virtual workout. And I had someone even say, what does it matter? They're not even in the same room together. Why are you doing girls only? That's a time slot where everyone should be allowed to go. And I just know how important it is for girls to have their own space. Some girls love to play with the boys, and everything we do is co-ed, but we really make sure that we always provide an opportunity for girls to have their own space. I think, again, it's about feeling bigger than it's about feeling a part of something bigger than yourself. And I think what a lot of girls, I saw it over the years building my program before we had a girls only program, is girls would join, and there were two types of girls. There was the girl that said, this is fantastic, it's for me. And then there was the girl that said, you said there would be more girls here. Or they would say, yeah, but those girls are way better than me. I'm not trying to be here with a bunch of boys and girls who eat, sleep, drink, dream basketball all day. I just like it, and I want to play with my friends, and I want to feel like it's for me. And I think too often when girls end up on a team with 9 boys and 1 girl, it just doesn't feel like it's for them. So for our program, having a girls only environment, I think is crucial. I think even virtually providing a space where girls can be with only girls, and we have girl coaches and we have women coaches, but we also have girl coaches. Right now, our girls only workout is coached by 2 16-year-old twins who grew up in our program and have been with us since they were 8 years old. And they just do such a better job than I could ever do. Their knowledge of the game isn't quite where mine is, but it's high enough. And their energy and their passion and the fact that I watch them, but I turn my camera off. I make it clear that this is no boys allowed, including myself. And I'm going to get out of the way and create this environment that is 100% for the girls who show up. And I think giving them that feeling of ownership and that sense of this part of the program belongs to me is crucial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And going on to the next question from a coach, why is consistency important when working through virtual programming, and how can our coaches right here on this training with us, how can they practice this? How can they practice being more consistent with their training?
Yeah, I mean, I think consistency there's 2 types of consistency. I think one is very important and one is a little less important. I think there's areas to be consistent and there's areas where you want to be, I try to be a little bit different every night. I don't want it to get too consistent. In terms of showing up, consistency is just the most important. Pre-COVID, I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and there's a lot of coaches who want to do what I've done over the last 10 years. They love the game, they love coaching, but how do I turn this into my full-time job? And how do I build a successful program with a sustainable budget? And my answer is always the same: just show up every single day. I've been coaching for over 10 years now, 7 days a week. I mean, I feel blessed because I love it. But I also think it's more important than anything, because your players have to know that you're there. When they know you're there, even when they're not there, you develop this Superman, Superwoman quality where people really think I don't sleep. They think that it's like all I ever do. And of course that's not true. But by being super consistent, you get a reputation, and people start looking at you in a way. People tell me that I work harder than anyone they know. And I go, well, it's not true. It's just, I'm always there when you're there. So you think I'm always there. I'm not always there. It's just, it feels like you're always there. And I think that consistency of people knowing how much you care, there's no better way to show people you care than showing up every day. So I think that way consistency is super important. And then I think it's also important to consistently change and to consistently make things a little bit different, and be unapologetic about it. Hey, we're going to try something new today. If you don't like it, let me know at the end. If you do like it, let me know at the end. But we're going to try some different things today. And sometimes we try something and we go, man, that stunk. That wasn't very good. We won't, hey, sorry everyone, bad idea. I thought it was cool. It didn't work out. We'll scrap it. Don't worry. But consistently trying new things is a different type of consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of our coaches on here really wants to just like jump in the water for the first time. What is that, what is maybe that one thing, if you could say, like, what is that one thing to get a coach going? Is it like just setting up your Zoom account? Is it like, what was the first step to doing this virtual to just doing this virtual training? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have a big following, right? When I send an email, it's like 13,000 people or something. So I wasn't worried no one would show up. But I would say if you have a smaller group, make phone calls, make sure, but also don't be afraid to coach one kid or two kids. Two will turn to four will turn to eight. Just jump right in. I think people are so starving for quality programming, and they're so starving for personal connection. I know that's, we're all in withdrawal of seeing other people. And I think you'll be surprised how thankful people are. I think about how much we improved from the first day we did it. But from the first day, the reaction was, thank you so much. One email that stands out is a parent said, my kids are in private school, and I just want to tell you, you've been doing this for 3 weeks, and they haven't even got one gym class organized yet. They said it's coming in a week or two. And he was just so kind of aggravated that he's paying so much money for a private school that can't get it going. And the free youth basketball program his kid is in is doing it all day, every day. And I think just do it. Just jump in. What you'll find is some things work better virtually. You'll enjoy. I love doing shooting clinics. There's actually a shooting clinic going on right now that I usually run on Tuesdays. I love it. I can take pictures of them. I can take videos of them. I can show them the videos. I can go on YouTube and take a look at how Jordan shoots, or how Kobe shot, or how Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. And I got this technology at my fingertips where I say, all right, I'm going to show you something, but don't take my word for it. Listen to Steph Curry. And we watch a video together, and they ask me a question. So there's some ways that virtual, what you'll find is, in some aspects, virtual is better. I think as coaches, we spend a lot of time saying, stop screwing around, stop talking to your friend, come on back to work. Well, there's no screwing around anymore. Players are telling me that the Zoom workouts are more difficult than what we did when we were all in the gym together. So I think there's a lot of good stuff going on, and just be fearless. Jump in. You got nothing to lose in terms of not having, people are going to forgive you for not doing a great job. What they're not going to forgive you for is not moving. Right. I think your people, from your players to your families, if it's a nonprofit, your contributors, they're going to respect the hell out of you for getting it going. And they're going to be more than happy to go through some growing pains with you. And even more, you can let them know, hey, this is new to me. It's my first time. Please give me feedback. Always asking for feedback is great, because you're giving people a permission to give you a call or write you an email and help brainstorm and make it better together. If they know your intentions are in the right place, they're going to roll with you. They're going to give you a long leash to figure it out, as long as they know that you're trying your best and that your intentions are right. So I would say, my message, this is why I'm so excited to be here with you guys today, is my message is start tomorrow. Or start tonight. It's so easy. Zoom is free, but I think I pay like $40 a month or $50 a month to allow up to 500 people in the Zoom room. So I never have to worry about people getting locked out. I post one link on my website, and we just use that room for every workout the whole day. I would just say, start with, put an email out and say, hey, tomorrow we're doing a Zoom workout. Anyone who wants to join, we'd love to see you. And then just take the approach where you want to improve every day, and you'd be surprised how effective it can be.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you, Coach Macky. I want to end on this question: is where can people watch your training sessions? Where can they see what you're doing and maybe, get some ideas from what you're doing? Where can they go?
Yep. So go to steadybuckets.org is our website, and it's right on the homepage. If you scroll down, we have our calendar set. Every day is a little different because our yoga coach can only do 3 days a week. On Thursday, we have a partnership with another organization. So I do my coaching with their all day Thursday Academy. So every day is a little different. I post the Zoom link around a half hour before the first workout starts, and you can jump in at any time. Everything that I described is going on. I coach every night from 5:30 to 7. So if you want to see me, it's 5:30 to 7 Eastern time. And then you can also see our young leaders are a lot of fun. Our girls group is a lot of fun because the twins just have so much energy, and it's cool to see. But the advanced ball handling is also taught by a 16-year-old. Our young classes are taught by 14-year-olds. So you'll get a mix. But I'm always on at 5:30 to 7. My head assistant, who's the only other full-time employee in our organization, he coaches from 12 to 1. and then the rest of the time it's young leaders coaching. So you can see us in action. All you got to do is click the link and you're in. So it couldn't be simpler.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Coach Macky, for joining us. Please send me that PowerPoint presentation, and then I can get that out to our coaches, because that has a lot of really good information for anybody who's just trying to, sit with that information you gave us for a little bit longer. So we will be sharing that PowerPoint with you all, and we'll be, sending you over that link. Absolutely. But stick around, because right now, Coach Macky, you're welcome to stick around with us, but we're going to have a debrief right now. We're going to talk about this like we usually do, spend about 30 minutes right now just debriefing what we've just learned, what Coach Macky just shared about us. And so we're going to transition right now into that. Let's transition here. All right, so for those of us who are sticking around with us to just kind of debrief this and share your thoughts with us, I think a lot of questions hopefully came up for us with that. Maybe we were thinking like, this doesn't really sit with me, or this really inspired me. So let's talk about that. What are some of your immediate reactions and thoughts to that presentation? This is just going to be, this question is a large group discussion, so I'd really appreciate anybody who can share in the chat, or right now, unmute yourself and share with me, what are some of your immediate reactions and thoughts to that presentation? Lots of thoughts. Oh, lots of energy. He has lots of energy. Got it. Thank you, Kenya. Very informative.
Yeah, I mean, that's my original thought too, right? Just so much energy and passion just to jump out there and start doing his programming and being willing to put himself out there and figure it out for his kids. It's super inspiring.
The point was really, really powerful and inspirational. I think this is applicable to both virtual coaching as well as just personal life. So I really did like that it was translatable from coaching to just our everyday life.
I think for me, it was the mindset. See this as an opportunity and not necessarily as a setback. I think that was very enlightening for me, as to just taking the opportunity to challenge yourself through this as you try to serve the kids that we work with.
Thank you for sharing that, Brian. That's awesome. We have people saying it was powerful. How, he reminded you of an old coach that you had. How saying, some of us, maybe some of us needed to receive a message of like, just do it. Maybe some of us were ready to hear that. And now we're feeling really inspired by that. And we're going to go and do something about it. Thank you for sharing that. I want to get ready to, I want us to continue thinking about this. And I'm going to toss it over to Thomas for this next question here to lead us into that.
Hey, coaches. So it's just question number 2 that's on the screen right now. Hearing. Basically,
what Thomas was going to say are, that second question that's right there on this slide. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses of these approaches that Coach Macky presented to us? Think back on your program. Think about yourself as a coach. What are some of the strengths that he was talking about, and maybe some things that are weak and that you really can't see helping you as a coach or helping your kids? Think about that, and we're actually going to break out into a few rooms right now. When you get into your groups, this is what you're going to talk about. 1, what are the strengths of what Coach Macky talked about, and what are the weaknesses of what Coach Macky talked about? We'll have 5 minutes to discuss those 2 things, all right? Really, let's make this a great conversation. Unmute yourselves, put yourself on video if you have that capability. I really encourage you all to do that during this time, and let's do it. Let's get 2 sharebacks. I'd love to hear what people were talking about. What are some strengths that you found from these approaches, and what are some weaknesses? 2 sharebacks, and we can move into our next question.
I think we were discussing that it went just a little bit too quick to capture everything.
Okay, not a bad weakness. At least you're engaged, right? You're totally engaged, but definitely something to note for next time. Anything about his approaches, maybe anything he said that you found like, oh, this is really good, that like this is something I can do, or maybe you were like, oh, this approach is not, this approach is a weakness.
I think for the most part, the one thing that we definitely addressed that we agreed on in our breakout room was just like utilizing this time to experiment more so and getting out of your comfort zone. I think that kind of hit spot on for a lot of us. And like I spoke about earlier, I just think that it's applicable to both coaching and personal life. So I think it kind of struck a nerve when he said that. And I enjoyed that approach because it kind of gave us a different perception of how to kind of turn around our day, or, how we look at the next however many months or years that we're going to be faced with this kind of pandemic.
Thank you for sharing that. That hits it like right on the head. Yeah, I see some claps, some thumbs up for that. With that said, let's move into our next question then.
Awesome, thanks, Marisol. Really good discussion so far, and I think that this is it's such a cool thing to do that we don't often get to do, which is to like see another coach talk about their coaching and kind of evaluate their approach. And I think it's important that we take this not of general thinking about this approach, but think about for the specific young people in our programs, how this approach would affect them. So let's think about some of the individual kids in our programs, maybe some kids that you think are really thriving in your program, or maybe some kids that you feel like your program was really struggling with, or maybe that you were struggling with personally. So think about those kids and think about how this approach, some of the things that Coach talked about, how would these approaches affect those specific kids? So having that kid in mind, how would this approach affect that specific kid? You can think about, are there specific kids in your program that this would really benefit? And maybe are there specific kids in your program that might feel left out by this approach, or that might struggle with this? If you need some inspiration, I think that place about moving out of your comfort zone is a really interesting place to start.
I know yourself, Coach.
My kids, a lot of them don't have, like some of them don't have computers. And so I think one of the things that Macky brought up was hosting the Zoom, like before you guys are going to start. So maybe if there is some interaction that you're doing, get with a friend, before, and just like talk and look at their friend, and interact with them on, through the Zoom before we start our practices and stuff like that. I really like that idea.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. So I think that Nate's going to send us back into breakout rooms, and we can discuss these in more depth right now. So go ahead and join that breakout room prompt that comes up on your phone or on your computer. Yeah, I think one of the truths about these short meetings is that they don't give us time to get super deep into the specifics. But I think that we can think of these instead of as like the full growing season. This is like our opportunity to plant seeds and help each other create the circumstances by figuring these answers out if we can't get all the way through that conversation. So respect to wanting to spend more time talking about it. I think that's great. In the time that we did have, I think we have a lot of folks back, if not everybody. Would anybody want to share some things that they talked about, specific young people that they thought this might work, or that young people might this approach? Any things that you all thought of?
So for me, I'm just gonna talk about like people who are not gonna be able to benefit from all this. It's the people that doesn't have access like to internet or phones or computers. Like even like I work in school, and when this start happening, they give out like laptops out for kids to use, but still you have that internet problem. Like they don't have access to the internet.
Yeah, definitely. So that problem of access. What other ways would young people struggle with this approach? That idea of access, I think, is an important one, right? If you can't log on, then you can't benefit from this. Can you think of any other ways that some folks would struggle? I feel like there's been a couple chats that suggested this to me, but go ahead. What do you think?
I still think the idea of making videos and send it out, like, you know, like make small videos of drills and something that they could do and send it out, like, I don't know. It's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard to think about a solution for these kids to use, especially like the parks are closed, like everywhere is closed.
Yeah, Tony. I think Tony and Wade are getting at, and Kenya are getting at a really important notion, which is that sometimes it feels like it takes that presence to keep kids focused, right? So Kenya mentions losing focus. Wade says that kids might not have the motivation looking at something online, right? If I want to step away or stop my video, I can do that at any time, and I can just kind of check out, right? And so it might feel like for the young people that we have a hard time with attention, and you know those kids in your programs, that this might be even more challenging now.
Oh, just like from what I saw in Langston Hughes Academy, like kids loves to be in video calls.
Yeah, so maybe some of those kids would really love it, and I think that we can think about those too, right? That some kids love being on the Zoom call, love being able to like do a reaction or be in the chat, and so this approach could really benefit some kids too. I think for me the big thing that we can think about as we go forward is really amping up our look and listen skills. So if we see different kids struggling, then we can change things up to accommodate them. If we see kids thriving, then we can do more of that so that they keep feeling positively. But we know, I think Shraf's point is really good. Same with Kenya and Tony and Wade. Different kids will be motivated by different things. We already know that. And so the same is true just in kind of a different format with some of this online learning. Really cool. I think we want to make sure that we're continuing to think about these things, but I think we have one more question and breakout that is going to come from Nate.
Thanks, Coach Andy. Yeah, we're a little over time, but that's because these conversations are so awesome. And I love what Andy said, that this is a great seeding season to just chew on a lot of these thoughts. So Andy's got us thinking about our kids in our program and trying to make this very specific, which is what we want to do. We want to challenge you to take ownership and think very specifically about your program. I want you to continue to do that and think in ways that strategies that Coach Macky has told us about, maybe things that you're thinking about, how do they need to change or be applied to the kids in your program? What are some things that maybe you need to do to be even more trauma sensitive because you have those personal interactions? As Coach Macky said, he's running a national program. He's got kids that he's never met before, but you know your kids. You have relationships with your kids. You know their triggers. You know their areas where they feel comfortable and areas where maybe they're still growing. So we're going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes. We may have to cut the time a little shorter than normal, send you out to your breakout rooms, and that's what I'd like for you to talk about. What are the ways that you would need to change some of these approaches to fit the kids specifically in your program? So here we go. Awesome. We should all be back now, guys. Welcome back. Sorry we had to cut those conversations a little short. I'm going to look for one quick share back. What'd you guys talk about? And then we're going to toss it over to Marisol for one last thing before we get out of here. I'm looking for one share back. What's something that you guys talked about, how you would change your approach to fit your kids?
We talked about just reaching out to the kids a little bit more on Instagram. Just trying to, because the kids, they're out there. They may not have a laptop or something like that, but a lot of them, have phones. Their parents have phones, so maybe we could try to do a better job of just creating some content to get them, keep them involved and engaged.
Love that, Coach Jerome. Thank you for sharing. All right, guys, I'm going to toss it over to Mighty Soul for one last little thing for us to chew on before we get out of here.
Yeah, well, first, I want to just say thank you again for all of you, sticking through Coach Mackey's presentation. Really thinking of virtual coaching in a completely new way if you weren't thinking about it in this way before. So thank you for sticking through that. Thank you for submitting any questions, and again for being a part of this debrief right here, to help you really understand how those approaches affected you, how hearing those ideas really affected you. Are they going to stick with you? Are you going to maybe just take them and put them to the side for right now because it's not something that's within your capacity right now? So thank you for being here. I'd like us to, if you're on video, just go ahead and give us we're going to do a waboo right here right now. So can I get a waboo?